In this video, we'll look at the WASSCE 2023 General or Core Mathematics, the Nigerian paper objective question number 24. And it says that Mrs. Kebe stands at a distance of 110 meters away from a building of vertical height 58 meters. If Kebe is 2 meters tall, find the angle of elevation of the top of the building from her eye. Before we start, if today is your first time on my Students Class channel, don't forget to subscribe and click the notification button so that you'll be promptly informed anytime we upload a new video. And hey, one more thing, click the like button so that the video can reach a lot of people. Thank you. Now let's continue. Alright, so let us try to draw a diagram here and look at the question. We are talking about angle of elevation. Angle of elevation here, and when we say to elevate means to raise, or when something rises. So angle of elevation is the angle that is found between the horizontal eye level and the line of sight. So let us look at this first. Let's draw our horizontal ground. So let us assume that there is the ground here, and we are talking about Mrs. Kebe. So let me put Mrs. Kebe here. So let me draw something vertical to represent Mrs. Kebe. So this is Mrs. Kebe, and of course it says that Mrs. Kebe stands at a distance of 110 meters away from a certain building. So let me also put the building here. So let's assume that that is the building we are talking about, and we are told that the building is 58 meters. So the building is 58 meters. That is the vertical height of the building. And we are also told that if Kebe is 2 meters tall, Mrs. Kebe too is 2 meters tall. So, and we are told that she is 110 meters, that is 110 meters away from the building. Okay, so that means from here, Mrs. Kebe to the building is 110 meters. Find the angle of elevation of the top of the building. So the angle of elevation of the top of the building, that is the top of the building. And let us assume that is where we have Mrs. Kebe's eyes. So the angle of elevation of the top of the building simply means that. So the angle of elevation simply means that through which angle does Mrs. Kebe have to raise her eyes in order to look at the top here. So what should be the angle that she has to raise her eyes to look at the top here? Before we even begin with the angle of elevation, we have to first look at what we call the horizontal eye level. That is, if Mrs. Kebe looks straight, this will be her line of sight. So we call this the eye level. Okay, so when we are talking about angle of elevation, it is the angle between this horizontal eye level and her line of sight. That is where she has to raise her eyes to look at the top of the building. So the angle that is described here, let us call it theta. This is the angle we call the angle of elevation, because when Mrs. Kebe is not looking at anything, her eyes look straight. All right, or let me say that the focus is straight. So when she raises the eyes to look at the top of the building, the angle that the eyes have to go through is what we call the angle of elevation. Of course, the eyes have to elevate, they have to rise up to look at the top of the building, because this is the vertical height of the building and there is a horizontal eye level. When a vertical line and a horizontal line meet, they form a 90 degrees angle, just as we see here. All right, so if from here to there is 110, then from here to there too is also 110 meters. So this forms a right angle triangle. And when we talk about right angle triangles, we talk about Pythagoras theorem. That is when you are talking about just lengths, or trigonometry when you are also involving the angles. All right, of course we have angles here, so we will be talking about trigonometry here. And we are told that the height of the building is 58 meters. So from here, the bottom to the top is 58, but we are also given the height of the woman as 2 meters. So if here, from here to there is 2 meters, then what is left here is 58 meters minus 2 meters, and that is 56 meters is the height of the right angle triangle. So we can draw a right angle triangle here this way, and we have this. So that is theta, and here is 110 meters, and this will be 56 meters, and then of course we have this and that. So we can find the angle, that is the angle of elevation. So let us look at trigonometric ratios. We have sine, cosine, and tangents as their three basic trigonometric ratios here. Now this side of the right angle triangle is called the hypotenuse. It is the side that is opposite to the 90 degrees angle, but these two sides, have names that interchange depending on the angle that we are talking about. Of course, we are finding this angle, and this angle faces this side, so we call this side the opposite side to the angle. And of course, this side is adjacent to this angle, so we call this the adjacent side to the angle. And because we know the opposite side and the adjacent side, we use tangents to find the angle. So we say tan theta is equal to the opposite side, which is 56 meters, over the adjacent side 110 meters. So we simply say 56 on 110 because of course always the units will cancel. Now if you want to remember when to use sine, cosine, or tangent, you can use these mnemonics, SOHCAHTOA. Now, so the S stands for sine, and the O means opposite, and the H is hypotenuse. The C stands for cos, and the A means adjacent, and the H stands for hypotenuse. The T stands for tan, and the O stands for opposite, and the A stands for adjacent. So that is to say that if you have two sides, if you know the hypotenuse and you know the opposite side, you use sine. If you know the adjacent side and the hypotenuse, you use cosine. But because we don't know the hypotenuse here, but we know the opposite and adjacent, we use the tan here. So we say tan of the angle theta equals 56 on 110. So to find theta, we have to get rid of tan. So we take tan inverse of both sides so that we get tan inverse of 56 on 110. Of course, 56 on 110 can be simplified if you want to do that. Alright, so if you want to type tan inverse, first that is tan. But if you want to type tan inverse, you first must press on shifts and press tan so that you have tan inverse here. Then we type 56 and press on the fractional templates and 110, and we close the brackets. So the tan inverse is 26.98. Okay, so tan inverse is 26.98, and there is the two decimal places here. But the question here, all right, we were not given anything here, but if you look at the answers, they have been left to the nearest whole number. There is no decimal, so this to the nearest whole number is 20, or to the nearest degree is 27 degrees. So the angle theta is 27 degrees.